Well, good evening, everyone, from the Timmins campus of Northern College, and welcome to the 2022 Timmins Mayoral Debate, hosted and live streamed by Near North Video Productions and YourPlaceToWatch.com. My name is Stefan Lefebvre, and I will serve as your moderator for this evening's proceedings. We begin by acknowledging that we are on the traditional and territorial lands of the Cree, Oji-Cree, Ojibwe, and Algonquin homelands. We acknowledge these ancestral lands that we are gathered on, which continue to interconnect us all and remind us that we are all treaty people. First Nation communities now located on these lands include Matagami, Matachewan, Flying Post, Wagashig, Tegwa-Tegamu, and Métis Peoples Region Number 3. We are grateful to be their guests, and we are proud of the stewardship that they have had, and we wish to share this evening with them tonight. Tonight's debate is intended to provide you, the voters, with a better understanding of the policies and platforms of each of the candidates who will be seeking your support in their bid to represent you as mayor of the city of Timmins. We believe it is important to you to be well educated and to have the information you are seeking in order to be able to cast your vote with confidence. I would like to welcome our home viewing audience, live streaming the broadcast on YourPlaceToWatch.com, for joining us, and also I would like to thank our in-person audience for being with us tonight. A few basic house rules for our live audience. I'll start off with a bit of a health and safety briefing. So I ask that you please take note of the exits of the room, from the room, in case of an emergency, fire, if the debate gets a little too heated, things get a little hot. To your left, we have two exits, so one at the front of the room, one just closer to the back of the room. There's also an exit to my left on your way out. That'll bring you down the stairs or the ramp, down the hallway and out, exiting the building that way. Public washrooms are also located down that same exit to the left of the room at the back. Before we begin, I would like to ask you to please turn off your cell phone ringers and to set your phones to vibrate. Any offenders will be fined $20. You can give it to me, always looking to make a quick buck, or you could donate it to the campaign of your choice. It's not in here, I just made that up, but that's okay. We have a question and answer agenda that should take us through the evening. And so we ask that you kindly respect the time allotted to the event by not addressing the candidates directly from the audience or turning this event into a competition. Respectful applause at the end of the candidates' responses will be welcomed. However, rousing applause, shouts from the audience are respectfully discouraged. We ask that the audience remain quiet while the candidates are speaking so that everyone here and at home can hear what they have to say. All right?
All right.
Okay, well then let's get started. So at this time, it is my pleasure to introduce to you your 2022 candidates for mayor. Ms. Michelle Boileau, Mr. Joe Campbell, and Mr. Richard Lafleur. We could give them a round.
Thank you.
So we'll go through the format for this evening's debate. The format has been reviewed with and agreed upon by each of the candidates and will be as follows. Each candidate will be allowed a 2-minute opening statement. Following the question and answer period, the candidates will be permitted a 2-minute closing statement to be delivered by the candidates in reverse order of presenter from the opening statements. Answering order of the questions will rotate. The candidates will have 1 minute to respond to each of the questions. Cindy Campbell, Executive Director of the Downtown Timmins BIA, will be serving as the timekeeper for the debate and will notify the candidates when their time is expiring. After the 1-minute question and answers, or answers from each of the candidates, there'll be approximately 30 seconds for a response from another candidate, and time permitting, if there's time remaining, some additional open debate will be permitted at my discretion. The questions chosen for tonight's debate have been selected at random from the public, submitted by email to the event organizers in advance of tonight's event. We will also be taking questions from the floor from our in-house audience. Your questions can be submitted to Amanda Dyer. Amanda, where's Amanda? Oh, there's Amanda. Stand up, Amanda, please. So if you have questions from the floor, kindly bring them to Amanda. She will bring them to me, and I will read the questions out to the candidates. Please note that due to time constraints, we will only be accepting questions within the first 20 minutes of the session, and not all questions will be asked. However, if your question has not been asked, I'm sure that the candidates would be more than happy to meet with you one-on-one after the debate to answer your questions. So don't run away. Okay, with that, we will move on to the opening statements. I'd like to ask our candidates to present their opening statements. We will be proceeding in alphabetical order based on last name. Ms. Michelle Boileau will speak first, followed by Joe Campbell, and then Richard Lafleur. You have 2 minutes. Ms. Boileau.
Thank you. Hello, bonjour, wache. First, I'd like to thank you all for being here tonight. To see everyone out in large numbers after the past few years that we've had is really encouraging, and it shows the level of engagement that there is in this election. I'll begin by introducing myself. I was born and raised in Timmins. I'm currently one of your municipal councillors. I was elected in 2018. I've been working in the college system for the past decade, and I have a master's degree in educational and social research. I am the mother of a beautiful 2-year-old daughter, and I'm married to a licensed carpenter who grew up in the East End, Mr. Andrew Morrish. I'm here before you tonight because I love this community, and I know I have the skills and experience required to lead the city and Timmins in overcoming the challenges we're facing and to steer us on the path of growth and prosperity. Because that's the decision we have before us. Who do we want to elect to be our leader for the next 4 years? Well, I can tell you that I have demonstrated leadership skills in direct and program and service delivery, and I am experienced in monitoring public sector budgets. I'm actively engaged on several boards and committees, serving as the chair of the CDSAB, the chair of the Northern Ontario Service Deliverers Association, of the Timmins Public Library. I serve on the Timmins Police Services Board, among many others. I have significant experience in governmental relations, and my work has always required me to stay up to date with economic and local labor market trends. I'm knowledgeable of the construction industry, and not just because I'm the wife of a licensed carpenter or because I've been working in trades and in training, but because I'm very involved on large capital projects as director of the board of the Centre Culturel La Ronde and the Centre de Santé Communautaire de Timmins, which both have major capital projects in the works in Timmins at the moment. I'm optimistic for the future of Timmins. We now have a community safety and well-being plan which will help guide us in achieving our goal to end chronic homelessness by 2025, having more youth-focused initiatives and improving safety for all residents. I have a vision for the city of Timmins, which includes major capital projects, positive business environment, and thriving cultural communities. And I look forward to telling you more about it tonight. Merci, miigwech.
Thank you, Ms. Boileau.
Thank you.
Mr. Campbell.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the year of the sign. Signs, everywhere a sign. So if you remember that song, you're probably going to get in my generation. Anyways, in the words of a former mayor, a sign has never voted in a polling station ever that he can remember, and he served some 20-some years as the mayor. My 43-year career in accounting and 8 years on council more than qualify me to be your mayor for the next 4 years, to take advantage of the opportunities we have and to resolve the serious problems that currently exist. I ran for council 8 years ago because I wanted to be a voice for the residents. From day one, I did not have any personal agenda other than to represent all residents and groups equally and fairly, and to try and make our city a better place. I have not deviated from that path over the 8 years that I have served. The city is a business that spends $150 million in residents' money. Council is the board of directors and responsible as a governance body to see that the city business is not going sideways. If it does, the mayor and council have an obligation to ask tough questions. I have never shied away from those questions at all. Some of my goals are to partner with all groups fairly and equitably to make our city and our environment a better place to live. Review all essential services for improvements, not service cuts. Partner with groups that form private-public partnerships for additional facilities such as the Porcupine Commons Playground over on the highway. All right. work with Timmins Economic Development Corporation to explore all sector opportunities, not only mining, that can improve our economy. Open a debate and see why Timmins pays the highest taxes per $100,000 of weighted assessment. We have to increase our assessment to get that down. It's something that we have to do. Time to level the playing field. Use my capital experience to ensure that the Golden Manor is not over budget. As we all know, we are heading to a new construction in 2023. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Mr. Lafleur.
Bonsoir, je m'appelle Richard Lafleur, je me présente comme candidat pour maire pour la ville de Timmins. Good evening, everybody. I was born in Hillbury, Ontario, and I was raised in Timmins. I spent most of my life here. I left for a short period and came back because I wanted to give back to my community. In 2015, I bought a company called Vets Taxi. We are the largest privately owned company north of Barrie, Ontario. We employ over 400 people. I'm in a very unique position of being the owner of this company because I have the pulse of the community. I know what goes on in our city as it's happening. We are involved quite a bit with the Timmins Police Service in their investigations. They come to us for a lot of information that we could provide them. I know what's going on in the city. 6 years ago, I started a program called Nobody Gets Left Out in the Cold. This program was spearheaded by myself, my cousin Monsignor Pat Lafleur, and the president of the Timmins Food Bank, Mr. Rick Young. That program provides rides for people that use the Timmins Food Bank. We give them rides to pick up their groceries and bring them home. We do it free of charge. We also provided rides for people that were using the homeless shelter in South Porcupine before it burned down, free of charge. We also provided free rides to the senior citizens that lived in Schumacher to go to church at St. Anthony's. So I've been part of this community and helping and working with this community for a number of years. I've watched our community in the last 4 years deteriorate with crime, opioid crisis, the unhoused people. It's time that we do something about it. I've got firsthand experience watching these people homeless suffering. I can't watch it anymore. I need to be part of this solution because for the last 4 years, it's gotten worse. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lafleur. Okay, we will now move to the question and answer portion of tonight's debate. The first question will go to Ms. Boileau. Question is, in your view, what is the role of the mayor and why are you the best candidate?
Thank you. It's a very important question and one that everyone is considering at this moment. So a mayor is the leader of the municipal council, and also a leader for the community. And what is a leader? The leader is someone who can motivate people to work towards a common goal. A leader is someone who can help someone identify their strengths and work with them and find synergies among a team so that we're all able to accomplish that goal. I think that my campaign team shows that I'm a good leader because people do want to follow me in trying to achieve this goal. I have demonstrated leadership skills, like I mentioned. I've been working in management for a long time now, managing teams of up to 30 people as a direct supervisor. And it's someone who can also, it's someone who can ensure the fiscal responsibility of the team. It's someone that will monitor progress, will measure results, and we'll be able to make adjustments accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Campbell.
I think in my opening address, which I obviously timed incorrectly, I ran out of time. I have a 43-year career in senior management, the last 17 on capital projects that totaled over $1 billion. All of them come in under budget. My background is business. And the city is a business and should be run like a business. There are a lot of groups right now that are putting forth ideas to the city. These have to be vetted out and put forth as a business case for the city going forward. My experience along the way, 8 years on council, serving on 7 different boards, including 2 years on the police board, make me a candidate, probably the best one to serve the city going forward. That's why I ran, and that's why I'm sitting up here tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Lafleur.
The reason why I think I would make a good mayor in the city is because I work with people every day, with large amounts of people. I receive complaints. We take care of those complaints. We don't just sweep them under the rug. Any problems that we have in our business, we address it right away. We don't put it off. I have the voice of people of the city of Timmins from all different walks of life to talk to me on a day-to-day basis. We need a group that's going to work together, no squabbling, no fighting. We need a mayor that's going to be committed for 4 years and not have any other personal agendas on a higher position. I have no interest in any other politics than being mayor of this city for the full 4 years. I will give 110% of my attention and 150% of work.
Thank you, Mr. Lafleur. We'll move on to the second question. The question is, how do you intend to improve the quality of life for residents and to make Timmins a better place to live? And we will start with Mr. Campbell.
Thank you very much for the question. Obviously, I'm going to get into the opioid and homeless crisis. That's the one issue that has to be resolved in this city if we want to even move anywhere towards improving the quality of life in the city of Timmins. We can't be throwing up the white flag and saying there's nothing we can do. There's different types of homeless. There are those that really want help, and there are different types of addicted people that really want help, and there are many people in this town right now that are here that don't want the help and are causing major issues for the community. Unless we stop that curve, it's going to be very difficult to improve the quality of life in this community. Thank you.
Mr. Lafleur.
One of our biggest problems in our city is crime. Crime has risen to unspeakable levels. And part of the problem is we've all turned a blind eye on it. Our past officials have let it slide, got distracted over the last 4 years, and it's gotten worse. We need more police officers on the road. We need to hire, my goal, my wish is to hire 10 officers straight away if I'm elected. And the only way to do that is to go out and hire police officers that are ready to put boots on the ground and start working right away. Other cities have done it. I've done my research. We need 10 more officers on the road right now. A lot of people don't know this. 3 of 5 cruisers are working on a nightly basis in a population of 43,000. It's not enough. We need more police presence, and we need to get aggressive with stopping the crime in our city.
Thank you, Mr. Lafleur. Ms. Bello.
Thank you. Not a lot of people know that, but I do know that sitting on the Timmins Police Services Board, that we do need officers here to help improve our safety. And if it was as easy as hiring 10 officers tomorrow, we would be doing that. We're facing major recruitment challenges in the city. And I don't know where Mr. Campbell has been for the last 4 years to say that we've just thrown our hands up in the air and we're not doing anything, because we are working tirelessly and things are improving. And there are a lot of efforts at work right now, and we are making progress, and there's definitely a lot more work to be done. But to answer the question about quality of life, what I would like to do is focus on youth initiatives, as I mentioned, because we need to make Timmins a better place to live for our children and our youth. And this is an upstream solution to some of the challenges that the other candidates mentioned. We need to make sure that we're diversifying recreational opportunities so that everyone who's coming to Timmins and who's here sees something for themselves here. We need to improve transportation, making it easier to come to Timmins, to leave Timmins to go travel elsewhere, and easier to get around Timmins, and not just for people who are driving vehicles, but for people of all walks of life. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Third question is a question from the room, and it's with respect to post-secondary education. So I'll read the question. What are the key issues in post-secondary learning in this region that would require your support as part of your portfolio and or responsibility as mayor? We'll start with you, Mr. Lafleur.
Again, it falls back to attracting people in the city, making education an important factor to have. We have two colleges right now, one English and we have the Collège Boreal. We have to look at ways of enticing people to come here, which we have with Northern College. I'm having a hard time seeing that at Collège Boreal. I don't know if it's because it's just French and not bilingual. I'm not sure what it is. I know that the enrollment this year is very low. I don't even think there's enough enrollment, to keep the lights on. So that is a big issue that needs to be looked at. I don't have all the answers. Post-secondary, you need it in today's society, but we're all facing a crisis with employees, and people are lowering their standards just to get people to come to work because there is a huge shortage. Education has gotten very expensive. We need to be able to help these students. We need to set up funds for them to help them and retain the residency here in Timmins.
Ms. Bello.
Thank you. I look at the post-secondary institutions that are offering programming in Timmins with a lot of pride. So we have leaders in the post-secondary education sectors offering programming right here in Timmins. We have 4 different post-secondary institutions that are offering programming here, let's not forget. One of the things that we could do as municipal leaders is make sure that programming being offered in the community is aligning with the needs of the local labor markets. And so it's making sure that those conversations are happening between post-secondary institutions and leading industries. Making sure that we're providing support to post-secondary institutions when they're making requests to the ministry for new programming. Letters of support can go a long way. It's something that I've learned with my experience working in the college sector. Trying to bring all of the 4 post-secondary institutions that are offering programming here together to work on a concerted recruitment effort to help retain our youth here and attract more people, because I do believe that Timmins can become a post-secondary destination for students from Ontario and across the country, and also supporting initiatives for student housing, whether it be at the municipal level or among the institutions themselves. Merci.
Thank you very much. Mr. Campbell?
There are many factors that affect whether an individual or a business decides to make Timmins their home. In the case of a business, they have identified Timmins as a viable market. In the case of individuals, good-paying jobs probably lead the list. Affordable housing, educational opportunities, healthcare, recreational facilities, entertainment, an environment where they will be comfortable raising a family, and a crime rate will all play a role. No one will be enthusiastic about coming to a community to stay and work with a high crime rate. Job flexibility and a feeling where all are welcome in a diverse and inclusive community are also big factors. Housing is probably the biggest initial expense in relocating to a community. It's imperative that affordable single-family homes or rental accommodation be available. Some municipalities are offering incentives to developers by temporarily waiving the development fees and offering service lots at a premium to build a wide range of housing. Any loss of initial revenue by doing that will be recaptured with increased taxation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to question number 4. This question is with respect to infrastructure. One of the roles of a municipal council is to ensure that infrastructure is properly constructed and maintained. In your opinion, what are the major infrastructure challenges and priorities affecting the City of Timmins for the coming term? And we will start with Ms. Boileau.
Thank you. Maintaining the infrastructure is one of the most important roles of the municipal council and of our city staff. We know that we have some major infrastructure issues, a lot of maintenance required. Past councils prior to this one, didn't maintain our infrastructure to the level that it had to be, didn't want to make the investments that could impact on the short term, and weren't thinking about the generations to come that end up having to pay for this. Bridge and culverts were downloaded onto municipalities, and they're in desperate state. I've learned this with my experience on municipal council. I know that there is a list of priorities. What's really fun, though, is that we have a commitment from the provincial government for up to $75 million for infrastructure, meaning that any money that we've been budgeting for infrastructure works can now go back into our roads because we won't have to use that on the connecting link spending. So in terms of what my priorities are, definitely the roads, of course, but also looking at more innovative infrastructure. When we talk about infrastructure, it includes our recreational assets, it includes our transportation systems, and it includes a lot more than just the roads, and I can focus on that. Thank you.
May I ask you to repeat the question, because I didn't quite hear it.
Certainly. One of the roles of a municipal council is to ensure that infrastructure is properly constructed and maintained. In your opinion, what are the major infrastructure challenges and priorities affecting the City of Timmins for the coming term?
Basically, the major infrastructure that we need to fix right now, and we have to prioritize, are the roads, for one, our aging buildings, for another. Essentially, they're not going to all be able to be done at the same time, but we have to prioritize them. And in the last couple of councils, we have moved and done things that weren't in a priority listing. So we've gone and done things that didn't have to be done, and in the same voice, did not do things that had to be done that had higher priorities. We have to prioritize. There's only so much money to go around, and we have to prioritize where we're going to spend that money. And if we don't, then we're not going to do the job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Mr. Lafleur?
When you look at the infrastructure problems that we're having in the city here, these problems have been here forever. We've all complained about the roads, how bad they are. Timmins was #1 for the worst roads in Timmins by CAA, 2 years running. What a great distinction to have. But when you look at the main artery in the city of Timmins, Algonquin, we've got traffic that goes on that road every day. We got mining ore trucks that are tearing up that road every day. You look at now, they're doing construction right now to repair a section of Algonquin, and they just did one again last year in front of the Ford dealer. That's costing us millions of dollars. Where's that money coming from? It's coming from everybody here. We've been promised $74 to $75 million for our infrastructure. We need to use that money, and we need to tackle the roads. And I'm really thinking that we should look at a system where these big mining trucks should have to pay to use our roads to keep the repairs up. They're getting fat, and we're getting skinny because it's costing us money.
Thank you. We can move on to question number 5. This question is with respect to economy. Timmins has historically been dependent on a resource-based economy, primarily the mining sector, which tends to run on a boom and bust cycle. How do you plan to diversify our economy in order to ensure a stable economic base in the years to come? We will start with, yes, Mr. Campbell.
Thank you very much for the question. We all know that mining drives the economy of Timmins, but I'm optimistic about the mining. When you hear the results that Canada Nickel have announced over the last few weeks about another ore body 17 kilometers away, when you go to see what Manita Mines are doing and so on, there's a lot of opportunity. But we will have one big problem looming over us. What is the feasibility study from Kid Creek Mines going to be? Are they going to go ahead with it? If they don't go ahead with that, we lose $200 million in payroll and goods that are purchased in this community. Mining drives the community. We have to make it we have to make all things easy for mines to come into here. Okay, if we have to waive some development fees to do so, we do that because we recover it later on. And I have 10 seconds, so I guess I'll have to end it. Mining drives it, and the future looks bright. Thank you.
Thank you. Monsieur Lafleur?
As a businessman, I've been looking at this for a while, and it really baffles my mind. When you look at the economy in Timmins, and it's gone down, we've lost businesses in this city, and nobody has done nothing about it to replace those businesses. We lost Tembec, we lost Millette Lumber, we lost Grant Wafer Board, we lost Kid Creek Metallurgic Site, we've lost Staples, and we've lost Sears. And here's a good one for you. Staples that just closed down, they just opened up a brand new one, a second one in Sudbury. So why is that happening in our city? And why are we not replacing those revenues? We've lost the tax revenue on it, we've lost the jobs, we've lost a lot. And nobody's done nothing about replacing those revenues. Nobody's went out to businesses and tried to shop our city. Nobody's done that. And it's time to do it now. Not next year, it's time to do it now. We need to get those revenues back in the city so that we can't be the city that's got the highest taxes in Ontario. We got the worst road in Ontario, and now we're one of the highest taxes in Ontario. People are fed up. I'm fed up.
Thank you, sir.
And I want to do something about it.
Thank you.
Can I respond to
Can
that?
I answer?
We'll let
Thank you.
Ms. Boileau answer first, and then we'll
Okay,
allow you to respond.
thank you.
Thank you. So what I've heard so far from previous candidates is a lot of talk about the mining industry. I believe the question was about how we're going to diversify our economy and also about things that we've lost. But I recognize that the nature of shopping and commerce is changing. A lot of people are moving towards online shopping. There are new and innovative advancements when it comes to commerce. And so I think that in order to diversify our economy, it would be to recognize that and to work towards that and to see if people are ordering more online, what can we be doing for that? Maybe it's an Amazon hub here. I mean, I'm dreaming big, but I'm just saying we got to be thinking about what is coming in the future and adapting the local economy so that it could work with that. Now, in terms of diversifying economy, I think that strengthening our tourism industry could go a really long way because we have a really special product here, being so close to nature, being so far north. And so if we worked on investing in the tourism, we could definitely enhance our economic activity here, as well as agriculture. I've been in full support of the feasibility studies and seeing how we could develop the agriculture sector here, and so to be supporting the advancements in that industry. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell, I'll give you
Just
30
to
seconds.
respond to Mr. Lafleur, who made the comment that nobody's involved trying to save these places from leaving Timmins. There is a lot of people involved. Timmins Economic Development, a whole group of people that didn't want Staples to leave, that didn't want Sears to tear down 10,000 square feet of business of a building. But these companies have marketing teams. And when they can't make a case for this market to be viable, they're going, no matter what you say to them. But the fact that he's saying right now that this current council, this current administration did not actively try and keep these stores open is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to reply, Monsieur Lafleur? I'll give you
Yes, I do.
another 30 seconds.
Then why are the people asking the same questions? They're asking, why did this happen? Again, that becomes another problem. that this council has had. There's been no transparency. They have not given the information out to the public. So nobody knows why Kid Creek left and went to Rouyn-Noranda. A lot of people don't know why Millette closed down, why Tembec closed down, why Grant Wafer Board closed down. How come we don't have those answers? And I'm a businessman, a local businessman in this town, and I don't even know those answers. And any person that I've talked to, they don't even know why. We all have questions and we're not getting the answers. So maybe if there was a little bit more communication and transparency going on at City Hall, then we'd have the answers.
Thank you. We're good?
Well, I'll
10
just take
seconds.
an extra few
Go ahead.
seconds since everyone else
Sure.
got some. But just to add some points I didn't get to mention in terms of encouraging entrepreneurship is another way that will diverse our economy, and especially supporting Indigenous partners and Indigenous private companies. They're doing great work here, and so I'd like to just be able to enhance their platform so that they could keep developing their economic activity in the area as well.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. A little bit of debate. That was good. We'll move on. Question number 6. A question from the floor. It's not typed out, so like, what will you do as the next leader of our community to support the task force to resolve the doctor shortage in or here at home? So I guess in the community. Where are we now? Mr. Lafleur.
It's a great question, and I do have a very simple answer to it. How can we attract doctors in our community when we have an opioid crisis, we have a crisis with crime, our taxes are high? Doctors are like ordinary people. They're just people like everybody else. We're losing people in our community. To get them back here, doctors, we have to fix what's going on in our city first. It's like buying a car. It's like having a car, putting brand new tires on it, and it's got a blown engine. You got to fix the problems that are here first before you can attract any new doctors. And that's taken care of, like I said, the taxes, the crime, the opioid crisis, and the unhoused. That's what we have to look at first. We fix those, then we'll be able to attract the doctors. Right now, I don't see them coming. And we're funding this group of people that are out looking for doctors. We're paying for this, all of us, right now.
Thank you. Ms. Bello?
Thank you. I'd like to start off by just clarifying that we are not paying for the task force and the work that they're doing so far. How would I support that task force? Well, definitely I would work with them in collaboration. I would work towards ensuring that we have adequate housing stock so that when the doctors do decide to come, because they will decide to come, that they have the kind of houses that they want to be living in here. I would make sure that we have supports in place to ensure the full integration of family members as well. We have excellent schools here. There's no reason why their kids wouldn't be able to study here, but we have to make sure that spouses are able to find meaningful work as well, that we have the right clubs and recreational activities for their family members. So not only does the doctor find a home for themselves here, but their whole family does. We need to be developing incentive packages in a recruitment incentive program, which doesn't just necessarily include monetary bonuses, but can include things like housing, lease agreements, club memberships, and things as such. First, what we have to do is find out where are we going wrong, what are doctors saying, what feedback are we getting, and then move accordingly. Thank you.
Mr. Campbell.
Thank you for the question. First of all, we have to find out why there's such a split in the doctors in this community as to which program actually exists. On one hand, you have a series of doctors saying, we need a program. On the other hand, others are saying, no, it's okay. And the city is saying, yes, we have a program that attracts them. Well, the same thing that attracts any professional in this town, which we talked about earlier, will also bring a healthcare professional here. All right? And that's the basic reason for it, is that we have to have incentives. We are competing with a lot of other centers for that same person. And they have options. And if we don't compete with them, they are not going to choose Timmins to come. We have a lot to offer We have a teaching hospital, we have a welcoming community, we have skiing, we have all kinds of amenities to this town. And if we don't compete with the other municipalities, we are not going to be successful in solving the shortage of physicians. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. It's a great question. We've touched on this one a little bit, but this one is pretty specific. It's with respect to the connecting link. Considering that the current and proposed roadwork associated with the connecting link poses an inconvenience to motorists and pedestrians, what strategies would you consider for expediting the remaining phases of the work? And the question will go first to Ms. Buello.
Yes, a great question. I mean, I can appreciate the inconveniences. I feel them myself driving around town, as do the rest of council. How would we address these inconveniences? Well, we would make sure that we expedite the work by having more than one segment completed at a time. So if we can receive this funding, if we are receiving this funding, that means that we could actually do more work in 1 year. We're not limited to the funding that we had available year over year, which means that we could start at one end and at the opposite end, and we could work our way in. So we have funding committed to us for, I believe it was 7 or 8 years, but our engineering department actually has plans to try to get the work done within the next 4 to 5 years. So we are looking at how we could expedite things. We're going to put a plan in place. We're going to see where we need to be subbing out work, whether it be engineering design or the contracting work, of course. But essentially, we're going to be working with our provincial partner as well to ensure that the funding stays here for the next 4 or 5, up to 8 years that it might take us to get the work done. But the final thing I'd want to say is just make sure that we're communicating any work that's going to be done to the public so that they can plan around those inconveniences. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell.
I hate to tell you this, but can you repeat the question? Because I am having trouble. My sinuses are plugged and my ears are plugged, so I'm having trouble hearing your question.
Not at all. Considering that the current and proposed road work associated with the connecting link poses an inconvenience to motorists and pedestrians, what strategies would you consider for expediting the remaining phases of the work?
I'm having trouble hearing your question.
Would you like me to read it again?
Okay, I'm sorry, but...
Okay, no problem. Considering that the current and proposed roadwork associated with the connecting link poses an inconvenience to the public and motorists?
The current road work?
Yeah.
Okay.
What strategies would you consider for expediting the remaining phases of the work?
Well, basically, it's all contingent on money. We are getting so much per year, and we have to thank former Mayor Peary for upping the ante big time, from $3 million a year to about $7 million. We talked at council about doing a whole section rather than doing it in pieces going forward. And I hope I'm answering the right question here. And they didn't find a contractor that could do all that work in 1 year. So we were tied with Belanger. We only had one bidder on that stretch of road. Nobody wanted to bid a 3-year project at that point. So does it inconvenience people? Yes. Is it necessary to do it? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lafleur?
Nobody understands more of problems of getting around in this city than I do. Again, I've got 55 taxis in this town that go through repairs, go through ball joints, you name it. So we know the problems of transportation in this city, believe me. We need to have companies that are going to bid for these jobs. It's a competitive world out there. And we need to make our demands. Our demands is, no, you don't work until the sun goes down. You work 24 hours a day. You go down south, you go anywhere. When they're building roads and they're fixing roads, they're working around the clock. We should put a deadline on these companies that want to come in and do the repairs. And after those deadlines, if they're not met, then they start paying penalties. Yes, the city will be inconvenienced during these repairs, but it's a necessary evil. So that's what we need to do. We need to put it out there. Any of these companies want to come in and do work for our city, they better be good, prepared, fast, and efficient, and cost-saving for us. If they're not, they don't get the job. And if they do get the job and they don't follow the timelines that we demand, then they're penalized for it.
Thank you. Good. We'll move on to question number 8. Something not often discussed, taxes. Timmins residents pay some of the highest municipal taxes or tax rates in Ontario, making Timmins one of the most expensive places to live. The impact can be felt in many sectors, including youth retention, business development, and economic investment. If elected mayor, how will you address the issues of municipal taxation to increase the tax base so residential taxpayers will see some tax relief? And we will go to Mr. Campbell first.
Thank you very much. If anyone has brought this subject up over the past few years, I've done it. Okay, if you look at the BMA report, which is put out, if you own a house, an executive home in the city of Timmins, you are comparable in taxes to one in Toronto. For every $100,000 of weighted assessment, you will pay $400 extra in taxes. So if you've got $1 million home in the city of Timmins, you will pay $4,000 a year more than other municipality in northeastern Ontario. How do we stop it? We have to raise our assessment base so that the residential group is not bearing the whole burden of taxation. We are very limited with tax ratios to move those numbers around. In the past, we have moved some to the commercial base and give the residential some relief. But we are restricted by law from doing that. The only way that we're going to do this right now is start saving money, in which case we have a requirement for rest of revenue, or raise our assessment base. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Mr. Lafleur.
Yes, the taxes in Timmins are one of the highest in the province. It's amazing how it got to this point. But a lot of people don't know this. The city of Timmins right now has over 50 infill lots. These are lots that have infrastructure in place that have been sitting idle for years. They haven't done nothing with them. These lots, if they were sold, people could build houses on it, we'll get tax revenue on it, and then we could possibly look at lowering the taxes for everybody. The more houses we build, the more houses we'll get tax revenue from. We've got 50 of them, over 50 of them, that are empty, that the city has done nothing with them. Okay, so what do? You sell it to a developer that'll come in and build houses cheaper. You give them a tax break. You give them a deal on that land. Don't let it sit idle doing nothing. Sell these lots so that we can bring in more revenue, tax revenue on these new homes.
Monsieur Lafleur. Nobody?
Merci. So I believe part of the solution here was in the question. And so how do we help relieve some of the pressure of our current tax rates? And that would just be by growing the population. We need to add more people. We need to grow the tax base itself. I heard also that we need to grow the assessment base, which includes businesses. We want to attract more businesses here. It takes people to work in those businesses because that's what one of our major issues is right now, is the workforce shortage. And so we need to make sure that we're positioning Timmins in a way that is attractive to people, to prospective residents. We need to make sure that we are building more housing, and I imagine that housing will come up. And the city's been proactive in this. We've been declaring surplus land. We've been prepping land to make it more attractive to developers. We've been both on the residential side and on the industrial side. And so essentially that's what it is. We need to be growing the tax base. I heard a lot of things about adding police officers tonight, about making improvements to infrastructure. If we want to do that, we could expect taxes to go up. The only way we could stop taxes from going up is by having more people living in Timmins. Thank you.
We'll go to Mr. Campbell first and then Mr. Lafleur.
Just a brief comment. what we have to do around City Hall, and it's another thing that I've been proposing, is eliminate the red tape that developers have to go through to build projects. Okay, and if we eliminate that, then some of them go ahead. We have a project on Dalton Road that has been mired in red tape for years, and one out, the Shellswell development out in Porcupine. We have to move forward with those, and one of the proposals that I want to bring forward is to look at the red tape that people have to go through as developers in the city of Timmins to start a build. Thank you.
Thank you. 30 seconds, Monsieur Lafleur.
Again, this goes back to the problems this city is having. We've got an opioid crisis. We've got a crime problem. We've got an unhousing problem. These have not been addressed in the last 4 years. You can't expect the city to grow if you don't take care of the problems that are here now. I would love to lower the taxes for everybody, but I can't promise you that. All I can do is shop the city, try to bring in more business. We have to be more fiscally responsible, and we have to be transparent. Maybe that's a pill that we'll be able to swallow more if everybody knew what was going on.
Thank you. We'll go to another question from the floor. And Monsieur Lafleur, you'll have the first opportunity to respond. Question is, the backbone of a good city is public transit. Many citizens who rely on it are suffering due to its lack of service. They are losing their jobs and leaving Timmins altogether. Is improving public transit a priority for you? And how do you plan to fix it? And we'll ask the owner of a taxi business.
This is right up my alley. It's been a problem for a number of years. The government has legislated in 2025 that all taxi companies are going to have accessible taxis. Fortunately, our city has the buses, and we also have accessible vehicles to transport our people around. The problem is, and over the last 4 years, the city has made some mistakes. There's one group that came in that had $20,000 they wanted to give to somebody to allow the accessible vehicles, taxis. They offered it to me, and I says, no, I do not want it. I am not ready for it. It's very expensive. So they gave it to somebody else. He lasted 1.5 years in business, and that money is gone. We need more of these accessible buses working because people have to wait 3, 4, 5 hours to get their ride, and they got to book it a week ahead of time. That's what we need to fix, is the accessible rides for the people that really need it.
Thank you. Bueno?
Can I ask you just to repeat the question portion of the question, please? Thank you.
The backbone of a good city is public transit. Many citizens who rely on it are suffering due to its lack of service. They are losing their jobs and leaving Timmins altogether. Is improving public transit a priority for you? And how do you plan to fix it?
Okay, thank you. Yes, improving public transit is a priority for me, and it should be for everyone in this room and everyone watching at home, even if you don't use public transit and you own your own vehicle. Because if we're talking about growing our population, if we're talking about attracting more people here, we need to improve our public transit system. I work in immigration services and employment services, and this is something that I hear about from my clients all the time. I meet people that are moving from Timmins from all over the country and all over the world who are shocked when they have to use our public transit system. Now, it's a great system, but we can be improving on it. Our buses are filling up again, so we can continue to improve on it. One thing that I would like to see us doing as we go forward is that whenever we're making decisions on public transit, that we're consulting with the users, because too often we're making decisions that are strictly based on dollars and cents without actually considering the user experience and what that can mean in their life. And we heard it in the question, people do end up losing their jobs if they can't get to work on time. So this is important not only for me, but for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you
Campbell?
for the question. I'm glad that Mr. Furr brought up accessible taxis because the fellow who started it in Timmins, one of the reasons that he did go out of business, he had trouble getting some taxi licenses. So anyways, I fought for this for a long time as a member of the Municipal Accessibility Advisory Council for Disabled People, all right? In 2015, when I first got on council, I launched a fight to have handy transit cover the whole city rather than wherever the conventional bus routes went. It was a battle. There were councillors at that time didn't want to go ahead with it. But after a while, 3 times we were successful in doing it. The problem with the thinking with bus routes is that it's a service and it's not going to be a profit center. So when we start looking at it as a profit center and trying to reroute things and leaving people standing on corners, then we lose the whole value of the system. And I can tell you during the winter time, when we were running some of the buses, we changed the routes. And a gentleman that lives not far from me has to go for treatment 3 days a week. And he got left at the corner 2 days when the bus didn't show up. The route was changed, and myself, even as a counselor, had no knowledge of it.
5 seconds, Mr.
Transit service is a service. Transit is a service. It's like anything else. If you want to make it a profit center, you go user pay, but you're not going to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell, and thank you from the room. We'll move on to the next question. Question number 10 is with respect to housing. Ms. Boileau, you'll be able to answer first. A huge population growth has been forecasted for the city of Timmins. Currently, we are told that Timmins is experiencing a housing shortage or a lack of viable housing. We've touched on some of those topics. As mayor, what do you feel can be done to help address the housing issues and or encourage housing development in the city of Timmins? Again, we've talked a little bit about it, but we'll focus on the question.
Thank you. And again, it's something that I'm very sensitive to, the shortage of available appropriate housing in the community. Again, working with clients in the social services. I have a lot of experience from chairing the CDSAP board and chairing the housing committee and the Cochrane District Local Housing Corporation. I know that there's a lot of work being done, but there's a lot more that we can be doing. And one thing that we should be doing is working on public-private partnerships. And so seeing where we can be complementing some private development with public initiatives, so with some affordable housing built in, some inclusivity. We could incentivize the private sector in building more housing, and that's by clearing land, servicing land, making it ready to be built on. Takes a little bit of investment, but we'll end up being able to recoup the costs in the end. And making sure that we have more purpose-built housing. Housing that's built for people with disabilities. Housing that's built for seniors, for students, for people suffering from mental health and addiction services. Because if they could be in the right supportive housing, we'll be relieving a lot of the rental stock, making it more affordable and accessible for other renters. Thank you.
The provincial government recently announced a major plan to substantially increase housing stock in Ontario. For 2 years at council, I brought forward a request for $500,000 in the budget so that we could turn derelict homes into livable homes again. If they were family homes before, there was absolutely no reason that they could not have been turned back into family homes. It did not receive any benefit from fellow members of council. Recently, that program that was announced is a similar program. It was running in the Sioux, where they cooperated with the college and with Casse Populaire so that people that had low income could get into a house earning money on their house and not paying rent all their life, equity in the house, okay? Part of the provincial program is that. It has a program in it, a component, that makes it easy for people who are renting and are low-paying jobs to actually buy into a house and earn equity. That's what this is all about. As far as Timmins goes, we have to get DSAP, which we're all on, which Councillor Boileau and myself are on, to refocus on support and transitional housing in the market. We have drifted away from that by getting into commercial buildings, and we have to go back the other way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Monsieur Lafleur.
Again, I want to touch back again on these infill lots that have been sitting empty and not doing nothing with them for how many years now. That's the one thing they could start. That's a good start. We've got parkland that's so big that's being wasted. You look at Pine South, where the park, the Diamond Park is there. I believe it's Leo Del Villano Park. There's a section there. They did a study on it. The city did the study on it. They paid a lot of money for it, but they didn't do nothing about it. There's a section at the end there by Irko Road, I believe. We could build houses there and still have the playground. But they're not even looking at that. They're not looking at nothing. Timmins is a big city. We have a lot of land. Why are we not developing that land? Making a deal with developers, saying, you know what? We'll give you the land. We'll get it ready for you. Build on it. And we'll recoup that money in the years to come. It's not a short-term fix. It is a long-term fix. We'll be able to get tax dollars every year once these houses are built. We're not getting that right now. The lots are empty.
Thank you.
Can I have a rebuttal there?
Yep, your 30 seconds.
Thank you. Just in response to the fact that we're not doing anything with this land, the city is not a contracting company, and so we need the developers to actually want to come here and build on those lots. And in terms of the idea with the derelict housing, the idea that was brought up by Mr. Campbell, that's an idea that originated in Timmins. Sue got that idea from Timmins. It's something that we're already doing with the Cochrane District Local Housing Corporation. It's something that Mr. Campbell should be aware of, having sat on the DSAP board, and it's something that he could have really driven home if he thought it was an innovative idea, if he would have stayed on the housing committee, but instead he decided to resign. So this is a great idea. It's something we're doing, and it's something that we can work on, but you'd have to be at the table for that. Thank you.
30 seconds. Mr. Campbell.
Next. Alrighty. Okay, getting back to the DSAP program, I sat on the DSAP housing program. And I dropped off it for the simple reason that I could not, in good faith with my accounting background, approve some of the purchases based on what was presented to me. And when I asked the treasurer sometime later to give a report on how the properties that they bought were performing, the majority were not. We were losing money on them. Okay, DSAP is set up for social housing, not to be into commercial buildings, okay, not to renovate commercial buildings that are not providing any new units for our residents.
Thank you. Would you like to add?
The last construction that I saw in the city of Timmins for housing was the old school in the playground down by, I believe it's on Preston. 2 new buildings. There used to be a school. They turned that into apartments, and then a private company also built an apartment building. Beautiful. That's the only construction I've seen in this town. Nothing else. Again, last 4 years.
Thank you. Move on to the next question. Again, this has come up in some of the discussion, but we'll focus on the question. The municipality's annual budget process must be open and transparent to the public in a way that does not impede its general efficiency. How will you encourage full and public assessments of the required financial commitments, including the budget process, if elected? And we will start with Mr. Campbell.
Thank you very much. This is another fight that I've fought the battle for the last couple of years. On 2 occasions, I put forth a resolution that had 8 recommendations to improve the budget process, to make it more open, and to engage the citizens who have every right to know where your money is being spent. Unfortunately, believe it or not, it did not receive a seconder and did not make it to the order paper. Okay? Right now, the city approves a net levy tax budget of $43 million. The budget to operate the city of Timmins is in the range of $150 million. Now, whether that money comes from the tax levy, from government grants, from the province or the feds, or fees for services that the city provides, it's all your money, and you have the right to know exactly where it's spent. I will bring that resolution forward again with the new council and engage the taxpayers so that you have a right to know where your money is being spent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Monsieur Lafleur?
When I was a little boy growing up in Timmins, there was a show that I used to watch every Sunday afternoon at 4:30. And the gentleman that did this was the owner of CFCL TV, Conrad Leving. Some of you may remember him. He used to have a program that was called President's Corner, and he would talk about the daily issues and what's going on in Timmins and his concerns. I remember that. I was just a little boy. After all these years, what I want to bring to Timmins is an unprecedented level of transparency in our city. I want to start the Mayor's Corner. So every 2 weeks, we're going to figure out which media we're going to use, and we're going to discuss and talk about what's going on at City Hall. Any decisions that have been made or not made, who voted yes, who voted no. I will make that available for everybody, and this will be something that I'll do every 2 weeks. I will be there for our city, and my door will always be open because I work for the city, for the people in the city. That's who I answer to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lafleur. Number
Thank you. So to come back to transparency in the budgeting process, I definitely do agree with Mr. Campbell that the voters have a right to know how their money is being spent. As a voter, I've always received information and answers when I asked how my money was being spent. No one is hiding anything from anyone here. When we talk about the budget planning process, what Mr. Campbell is referring to is he would like every department to come and give lengthy presentations at City Hall, which in my opinion isn't necessary because we have council representation on every board and committee at the city. And so it's our duty as councillors to be asking those questions in between meetings before the budget planning even starts, asking questions at the board and committee level so that we can make sure we have the answers to be able to provide that information and share it back to the rest of council, because that's what our job actually is when we're at a board or committee meeting, is to find out the information that the taxpayer is going to want to know and then bring it back to the council table. Council is not the time to be asking the question. It's the time to be asking the question is before, so that our staff could actually provide us with the information so that we can make informed decisions the nights of. So I agree, it needs to be transparent. It is. I believe the format is working. If you have questions, reach out to your council members and they will be able to get the information for you. Thank you.
Mr. Campbell, 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. Councillor Boileau seems to think that the budget engages the taxpayers and is transparent. It's far from that. We have agencies, boards, and committees that spend tens of millions of dollars outside the watchful eye of council. We might have a member or two on that board. They do not present to a public meeting. Council can decide we don't have that amount of money, go back and change it, but we have no idea what's in those packages. We get a little printout with a one-line entry for each item. What does it make it up? What are they buying? We have no idea.
Ask questions.
That's your money. And this is far from being an open and transparent process.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Mr. Lafleur?
I have to agree with you, Mr. Campbell. There is not enough transparency when it comes to money. The city. It's our money. It's all our money. I'm not going to be fancy. I'm not a polished politician, but you know what? At the end of the day, I want to know what the bottom line is. I want to know where my money is going. I want to know how it's being spent. I want to know how they're saving money. And that is not happening. That needs to change. And it needs to change now. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Boileau?
I'm good, thank you.
You're good?
I would reiterate, everyone is able to ask questions, to request the information before decisions are made. So I encourage everyone to reach out and ask the questions, especially the council members that are sitting at the boards and committees that are preparing the budgets that are coming back to council. Do the homework before the council meeting when we're actually deciding on the budget, and you should feel comfortable in passing the budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next question. Question number 12, tourism and quality of life. should be important considerations for any mayor and council. If elected, what would you do to increase tourism to the area and provide a better quality of life to the residents of Timmins? Parks, recreation, etc. And we will go to Mr. Lafleur.
Tourism is very important in our city. We've got the mat tax. We haven't done anything with it yet. If I'm elected mayor, 85% of that money should go towards tourism. City keeps 15% of it to help pay for any administrative costs. But all of it should go towards tourism. We have a group that have been fluffed off this year that haven't gotten the answers they've been looking for, the ATV Club. They want to have the same access as the snowmobiles have. And this council hasn't given them the answer they were looking for. If I'm mayor, I'm going to give them the answer. We need to let them enjoy their quads, go on the trails, just like the snowmobiles. And that's something that I will promote. And then from there, we can move on. Tourism it's about family getting together and having fun. Bringing back the Great Canadian Kayak races. Eliminating that was silly. It was just silly.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Boileau?
Yeah, merci. As was mentioned, we now have funds that we can be strategically investing in Tourism Timmins. So we can be taking the portions of the MAT tax to reinvest into Tourism Timmins to grow that budget line, because it's one that, upon having looked at it closely, I believe is being underinvested in. So we need to infuse some more money into tourism so that we could actually be competitive when it comes to trying to bring conferences, big competitions here. We need to be able to have a little bit of budget for collateral, because you actually have to be able to put a bid on for those kind of events, and it's not something that's being budgeted for at this moment. So investing in tourism, investing in our event facilities and recreational facilities, making sure that any investment is actually sustainable and that we'll be able to keep up the operational costs as well. Building on partnerships with Indigenous organizations, with post-secondary institutions, with governmental agencies and our private enterprise, supporting the diversification of recreational opportunities to make sure, like I had said before, that everyone could find something for them here and not focusing on only one segment of the population, only one activity base, but making sure that it's very diversified and collaborating with our stakeholders that are already here so that we can maintain what we have and improve on it. Thank you.
Thank you again for the question. The MAT tax is really divided into two sectors. It's a sector where a nonprofit controls a portion of it, and that is the Timmins Economic Development Corporation, where the other 50% resides with council and a small committee of 3 councillors. The TEDC have done a marvelous job of giving out their money to events that bring in people to put heads in beds, as they say, but bring people to Timmins. On the other side, we have allowed that side to become a slush account for administration and not for council to divvy up. If I'm elected mayor, I will change the rules. That money will get spent. It will get spent on either facilities to improve in tourism, or on projects or concerts or stuff that will bring people to town. Okay? It's a great thing, the MAT tax, and for tourism, it's a wonderful thing.
Very good. We have roughly 2 questions left, or roughly, we got 2 questions left. So, I'll make a choice here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna skip to what we had, the last question. If we have time, we'll come back to the other one. But I think this is a question that's probably on a lot of people's minds. All the candidates have mentioned this issue in some of their answers, but we'll focus on the question at hand. So Timmins is not immune to the effects of the opioid crisis that has affected many other municipalities in Northern Ontario and the rest of the country. This crisis is further impacted by challenges related to a lack of mental health services, There's related to increases in crime, homelessness in our communities. This crisis has had a visible impact on our downtown core, our local businesses and small business owners, as well as many other neighborhoods within the city. If elected mayor, what actions are you prepared to take to reduce the impact of these complex social issues? And how will you further support the efforts of many other local agencies that are currently underway? Long question. I can repeat it if you like. We will go to Ms. Boileau, I believe. Yes.
If you could just repeat just that last portion.
The
of
last
question
part? Okay. If elected mayor, what actions are you prepared to take to reduce the impact of these complex social issues, and how will you further support the efforts of many other local agencies currently underway?
Thank you. This is a very important question. I realize that it's probably the one that's most top of mind for everyone in this room, and I can say with confidence that I am the most qualified person at this table to be able to actually address this issue. I have vast experience in social services. I deal with the kind of people that we are referring to every single day in my line of work. First and foremost, there is a lack of access to appropriate healthcare services here, and so that's something that we would have to address. What would I do as a municipal leader? I would work with the experts. We're working in with an expert right now on homelessness. We have a drug and area strategy committee. We have experts here in the community and at the table that are developing plans for us. And so I would listen to the evidence-based research, and I would be looking at initiatives that are based on evidence. We are building the system that we need to put in place to be able to put an end to the impact that we're feeling from the opioid crisis right now. But that system takes a lot of different parts, including emergency shelter, including safe consumption sites, including access to better counseling and social service, psychological services. And so we need to make sure that every part of that system is in place before we could have any hope of actually putting an end to this. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Our citizens deserve better than what they're getting in town right now. I realize that opiate crisis and homelessness is a complex problem, but we have store owners that go every morning and find either their store has been burglarized or vandalized. Okay, we have people afraid to go downtown because they're accosted continually doing their banking and their everyday things that they have to do downtown. There has to be a two-phase here. We have to let the wellness and safety plan work us out with all the partners, but we also have to come up with a plan right now that we're going to do something with the downtown, okay, and what's happening in other areas, okay? We can't let our kids play in a park because there's drug paraphernalia. We can't let our dogs run because there's drug paraphernalia. We have to do something. We can't wait. And everybody says, how do we stop people from pouring into this town to get on the merry-go-round when nobody's getting off? We have to do it. If we don't, we will be at this 5 years from now in the same position that we are today. And people that tell you different, tell you the facts. Let's get the facts out there. How many are we winning? How many games are we winning here? How many people are we getting into rehab? We don't have the facilities. We had an increase of 6 beds at the Jubilee Center, and I believe 6 beds at TDH. How many people are we successful weeding off this terrible problem that they have?
Thank you, Mr.
Until
Campbell.
we can get to that point, we need to do something for the downtown. And I will lead that if I'm the mayor of this town in the next 4 years. Thank you.
Monsieur Lafleur.
Our citizens are dying in our city. They're dying. People are turning a blind eye. They have. They get mad, they get upset, they're scared. And it's gotten worse over the last few years. We have to use some tough love. People make choices in their life, and sometimes they're bad and it leads them down to a bad path. And some of them end up where they are today. We need to help them and we need to have the compassion. But we also need the police to go after the source. The drug unit in Timmins, one guy, and I'm sure it's going to shock all of you, one guy. I know who all the drug dealers are. I'm privy to the information. Like I said, I got the pulse of the city. My taxis, they know where they all are. We need to start by getting the dealers, and then we need to help the people. We
5
can't do it
seconds.
until we get the dealers gone, put in jail, and never come back to our city. That's where it starts. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, I think our time is up for the question and answer period. We have roughly 10 minutes left in this evening, so I will move on to the closing remarks. And thank you again for your answers to the questions. So we will go to the closing remarks. We will go in reverse order from the opening remarks. You have 2 minutes each, and I will go to Monsieur Lafleur first.
Thank you. I want to apologize if I seemed a little aggressive tonight, but I hold it close to my heart because I care about this city. I care about the people in this city. I see a lot of things happening that a lot of people don't get to see. And it's sad and it hurts me. I have a lot invested in this city. I have my businesses, I have my children, I have my grandbabies here. I want them to stay in Timmins and to grow up and enjoy their life here, like I did growing up here. We don't have that anymore. 11 o'clock at night, walking out at night and not having to worry about getting mugged or getting shot at. Nobody ever thought of that before. Or stopping at Chez Nous to pick up a poutine. And it's winter time, so I'd leave the car running because, you know what, I'm only going to be in 5 minutes. You can't do that anymore. We need to change the city. And I have a vision, I have a plan, I have the dedication, and the best of all, I've got the heart. I've been showing it for the last 6 years, helping the people of less fortunate. There's nothing political about it. I was doing it because I care. And that's what we need. We need somebody who cares and somebody who's a businessman that's going to put all the fluff aside, roll up their sleeves, and get to work. Thank you.
Mr. Campbell?
Thank you very much. In closing, there are a couple items that we didn't touch on that I'd like to touch on in my closing arguments here. One is inflation and the cost of living. Inflation is not selective. It hits everyone, particularly residents at the lower end of the economic scale, those in low-paying jobs or those on fixed incomes, such as seniors. Add the fact that the Bank of Canada has announced that interest rate increases are forthcoming for the foreseeable future to bring the inflation rate down to the desired 2%. And you have a period where our residents are going to face a double whammy. Any resident with interest rate sensitive mortgages or credit card debt will feel the pinch. That means residents will have to tighten their belt and make some difficult decisions as to where they spend their money. Some will have to make a choice between food and lodging. If the residents have to tighten their belt, there is no reason that the city should not have to do the same. With budget time approaching for the new council, I would ask council to consider that freeze be implemented on any tax increases, water, wastewater fee increases, and other fees per year until inflationary pressures are relieved. Tough times require tough times, and everybody has to bear the burden. Thank you very much. Appreciate being here. Good night and have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Ms. Bello.
Let's see. Let's start by thanking tonight's organizers for this event, thanking my fellow candidates for the respectful debate. We heard a lot about the issues we face, not a lot of viable solutions, however. A special thank you to everyone here in the public, both in the room, watching at home, for your questions and your consideration. Know that I've heard you. I've heard you tonight and along the campaign. I hear that our residents want a better future for Timmins, and you want hope and you want action. And with all due respect, I know that I can deliver on that and that I am the best person for the mayor's job. As mentioned, I currently manage the Employment and Immigration Services for Collège Barrière, so I'm well poised to implement the kind of recruitment and retention strategy that we need if we want to see the kind of growth that we've all been talking about here tonight. I've also gained invaluable experience over the past 4 years as municipal councillor. I've represented you, the people of Timmins, and not only locally, but during meetings with provincial and federal ministers and staff. Just in the month of August, actually, I met with about a dozen different ministries on our behalf and with very positive results. So I look forward to continuing to build on those relationships that I have with our current ministers, and I'd like to ensure that the City of Timmins and the residents get not only what we deserve, but what we actually just need here. We need more housing of all types, we need better access to healthcare, we need better transportation, we need better recreation, et cetera, et cetera. Most importantly, and this is something that I haven't heard from anyone else here tonight, we need to achieve real truth and reconciliation in Timmins. We've made strides as a municipality when it comes to collaborating with Indigenous communities, but there's still a lot of work to be done. Je suis parfaitement bilingue et je suis fière des Franco-Ontariennes. I'm optimistic but realistic. I'm not an adversarial person, but I'm hardworking and I strive to get things done. I believe changing the status quo starts with us. Your voice is important and it should be reflected in our elected officials. So I want voters to put their trust in me between now and October 24th. Vote for our future, vote Michel Boileau, and if you'd like a sign, we have some out front. You can bring one home if you don't have one in your lawn yet. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we've come to the end of tonight's debate. I'd like to thank the candidates for participating in this event, and to you, the audience, for attending here tonight in person and for offering up your questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all of them, but I believe the candidates will be available for a little while after, so we'll let them
I have
work
a sitter
the
at
room.
home, so I can't stay too late.
Okay. Fair enough. I'd also like to thank everyone who viewed this online at home through our live stream. I'm told that we've had over 300 viewers this evening, so I think that's a really good turnout. I think it's important to hear about the issues in this election, and we appreciate everyone for having taken the time to be a part of this conversation. You may cast your vote for your favorite candidate in advance today by going online at the City of Timmins website. If you click on Learn More under the Vote Now banner, which will come up as soon as you go to the city website, you can cast your vote tonight for your favorite candidate, and you can do it online. Or, traditionally, you can cast a paper ballot at your designated voting poll on October 24th. I'd like to thank Near North Video Productions and YourPlaceToWatch.com for hosting tonight's event. I would also like to thank Mr. Rob Knox, hiding in the corner there, for providing event audio. Miss Cindy Campbell for keeping us on time.
She tried. She tried.
Miss Amanda Dyer for assisting us with the audience questions. Amanda, thank you. And once again, I'd like to thank Northern College for allowing us to hold this event here this evening. So thank you. Thank you to our president, Ms. Audrey Penner. Dr. Audrey Penner. And thank you again for attending, and be sure to vote on or before October 24th. Good night. Thank you.
It was good,